I'm going to briefly explain how the front end, which is the JavaScript game, works. So the front end logic is the following. The first thing the front end does is it makes the shape appear. So the shape can be either a circle or a square. Then it starts a timer so that it starts to count the time when the user was shown the shape, and then if the shape is clicked, then calculate the time taken so far, then make another shape appear. And calculate while calculating the time, we would also uh, keep track of the best score so far. So if the current time is better than the previous best score, then update the best score. This is roughly the front end logic. So this logic is coded in this index.html file, which is inside this m frontend folder, and it lies with respect to our Go path in the following way. So this is our Go path, which has this Go workspace and under source github.com, and this is my email to Vamos. It's my GitHub uh, username, and under that I have a folder called m frontend, in which I have this index.html file. So I will go through briefly go through what the code does, and then I will push this code to GitHub to save it in GitHub. This is a typical skeleton of an HTML file, which has this HTML tag and which has this head and body tag. So under head there is this title and some style, which I will come back to it later. Under body we have these HTML elements. So there are some paragraphs explaining what to do, and these are two timings we are keeping track of. First one is the current time, and next is the best score. And we have this div called shape, and we will be giving the shape a shape basically. So next comes the JavaScript aspect of it. So when the program starts, we initialize this variable start with the current time so that we can start counting. Then we keep track of the high score, which we initialize with the highest possible number in JavaScript, so that it will get easier for us to update, because whenever the user clicks the object, that time will be less than this number, and so that we can update the high score. And we initialize the variable size as 500. We are hard coding this, which means this is the initial size of the object we are going to show. And there are basically these two functions. So this make shape appear function basically makes the shape appear. Uh, so we have these certain variables as top, left, and width. So what this top and left do is they help us decide where to put this shape. So if we use this style property and top to be this top value, then whatever the value is, it will decide where it is going to be placed. And we can do that because the styling here for the shape, here we choose the position to be relative. And when it comes to the actual size of the shape, that is determined by this variable called width, which is 100 plus math.random times size divided by 2. 100 here is because in case it is very small, it would be hard to detect the size, which is why there is this extra 100 pixel added. And we are setting the width and height of the shape to be the same, and we can decide if it is going to be a circle or a square based on the border radius. If the border radius is 50%, it's a circle. If it is 0, then it's a square. So, and also we have this get random color function, which basically gives us a random color. Then we initialize this start variable to be the first starting point. So here this was for the for when the document is first loaded, and this here it gets updated because we will be calling this make_shape_appear function multiple times. So this function gets called in this appear after delay function, which means keep on calling this function after every 2 second or less intervals. And the set timeout function does that for us. So when we start the document, we just call appear after delay, and which will make the shape appear after some delay. And then we have this condition: if the shape gets clicked, then we will ensure we don't show the shape for that time. Then we calculate what is the end time. Then we calculate what's the total time taken, and we set the time taken div value to be this time taken value. And if this time taken is better than the current high score, then update your high score and then show the high score basically. And then call the appear after delay function again, which basically loops again. So this is overall what this index.html file does. It's fairly simple. If you have any experience in JavaScript or HTML, even if you don't have much experience, it is still fine. The code is fairly self-explanatory, and you don't really need to understand all the things. Um, so once the code is there and you have this index.html file, you can simply double click on it and it will start. So now you can see various shapes with various colors appearing at various intervals, and your current time is getting tracked, and your best score is also getting tracked. The information about the best score lies inside the HTML, inside the JavaScript code itself. So as it is currently, it is a self-contained application which does not require any other backend service. So what we will be doing in future is ensuring that this best score gets saved in the backend. And also right now we are just simply randomizing the size, so we just get either a big or small, and it doesn't matter, it's just random. So there will be extra logic in the backend which will keep track of your recent scores, and based on that it will decide a size. So if you are playing poorly, which means if you are taking too long to respond, then it will start to make the sizes bigger, and vice versa. So now that the code is written, I'm going to save it using git and push it to github.com. So how to do that? The first step is you do git init, which initializes git in the repository. Then if you are using VS Code, you can go here and save the change by giving a commit message here. So basically I can write initial self-contained HTML file, and if I can add it like this, and if I click on this, it will commit the change, which means now that change is saved. Next I'm going to push it to github.com. So this is my GitHub profile, and I can create a new repository. I'm going to call it frontend, and just I'm going to leave the default settings as it is and create repository. Now this shows a few options. What you can do is you can create a new repository, or you can push an existing repository from the command line. And this is what I'm going to do because I already have this repository locally, and These are the two commands you have to execute to ensure you can push your current repository to GitHub. So if you're doing it initially, it will ask for GitHub credentials, your GitHub account credentials. I have already given it before, so that's why it didn't ask me. What it's basically doing is it's uh, setting the remote repository location, and then it is pushing it. So now that I have pushed, if I reload it, I can see the changes here. If I can click on the commit, it will show me the commit message here. And if I click here, it will show me the repository as it is during this commit. So to summarize, we saw how this front end works. It basically makes shapes appear at of different color and at different intervals, and it keeps track of your performance. And everything is done locally, and it is self-contained, which means it's not requiring any backend. So later on, we will be creating backend to save the high score as well as decide on the size which are going to be shown to the user based on his performance. So these logic will be contained in the backend.